But I mean, one day I hope you'll believe what I believe in terms of the existence of a personal God. But on the other hand, mounting evidence that things are younger than they seem.
Well, I mean, maybe one of these days I'll have a deathbed conversion and believe in some sort of personal God, but I sure as hell won't believe the world's only 6,000 years old. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Well, I'm not sure it is.
But I sure as hell won't believe the world's only 6,000 years old. I mean, that's just ridiculous.
If I'm going to be a scientist, I have to believe I'm real, the world is real, we can ask real and rational questions. They are Christian presuppositions, not Buddhist presuppositions, not Hindu presuppositions. We got them exclusively from a biblical worldview. Even the word geology is invented by the Bishop of Durham. So we've got a big system of Christian thinking which predates anything you're talking about, which actually gave us off.
I'm trying to work out whether you're for real, because I can't believe you're really sincere. I mean, I think I'm trying to work out where you're coming from. You can't seriously believe what you're saying you believe. So I'm wondering what your agenda is.
Okay, well, you may have trouble with seriously believe, but I've been doing it for 20 years, so obviously it must be a good act, right?
Yeah,
and
I believe
reality,
it's obviously a good act. I mean, the Mormon religion is so obviously fake, founded by a transparent charlatan in the 19th century, Joseph Smith. I mean, nothing could be more obvious than that man was a fake and a charlatan and a liar.
If evolution had occurred, then surely, whether it's going from birds to mammals or even beyond that, surely there'd be at least one
There's a
evidence.
massive amount of evidence. I'm sorry, but you people keep repeating that like a kind of mantra, because you just listen to each other. I mean, if only you would just open your eyes and look at the evidence.
Show it to me. Show me the
I just told you about Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, Homo sapiens. By the way, archaic Homo sapiens and then modern Homo sapiens. That's a beautiful series of intermediates.
You're still lacking the material evidence.
The material evidence is there. Go to the museum and look at it.
So what I go back to again is, let's look at the... You're still lacking the material evidence.
The material evidence is there. Go to the museum and look at it. In this case, however, we have a very large amount of evidence in favour of evolution, but the evidence on the other side is not evidence in favour of anything else. It's actually looking for little gaps, it's looking for little things that allegedly evolution can't explain. Say, look, we found something they can't explain, that must mean God did it. Can you point to any positive scientific evidence in favour of creation?
I think the fact, as you pointed out, DNA, I think DNA helps to show that each one of us are individuals. And
yes, but they have to be individuals
distinct.
for evolution to work. I mean,
I don't think that's the case. I think
well,
that the fact
sorry,
that
but
each one... as human beings.
Do you actually know what Darwin's theory of natural selection is? Okay, I mean, I accept that, and I would hate to suggest that you take orders from authority. I do wish you look at the facts a bit more, though. I mean, they are actually very interesting. I mean, you'd be fascinated. Just read a book.
Yes, I think, well, I find that to be quite demeaning. Others.
You said there was no evidence of intermediates in evolution, and I told you about 5 fossils.
And what I say, if that were and if those were valid, there would be tons of evidence, because there are so many different species that there ought to be tons of evidence, even let's say for 1% of the macro evolution that's taken place, there should be evidence. But there's not even 1%, let alone 10 or 50 or 70%.
There is a massive amount of evidence. You just need to go into the books and go into the museums and look at it. It's there.
Yes, and
you're believing people who are telling you there's only 1%.
Oh, and again, I go back to it's very demeaning to say, if there was a vast amount of evidence, solid evidence to back up evolution, that would influence a significant number of the vast number of people who believe in intelligent design.
That sends me close to despair, because the evidence is there. I mean, I keep telling you about it. No, just let me tell you some of it. There is evidence of, for example, the transition from fish coming out of the water onto the land. It's beautiful evidence. It's elegant. I mean, they're lovely fossils. Go to Philadelphia and have a look at the wonderful fossil they've got there. I'm sure they have replicas in the Smithsonian here. Just look at that evidence. It's beautiful. The evidence for the transition between the reptilian jaw and the mammalian jaw. The reptilian jaw has several bones. The mammalian lower jaw has only one bone. And the other bones that were in the reptile have now moved into the inner ear. It's a beautiful transition.
So what is your cause in life? I would think that if your cause was to convince others that evolution is correct, not just a theory, but a fact, then you'd be devoting yourself to finding this information and making it readily available. What I find is that you're spending a lot of time arguing with me, trying to convince me, instead of showing the evidence or spending your time producing evidence.
Was I not just telling you about fish that are intermediate between sea?
But again, what I go back to is if
Right, well, Lime poses an interesting question here on the Connect the World blog tonight. If irrefutable evidence was found that a supreme being of the universe existed, what religion would it have most likely founded, if any?
What an absurd question. How on earth can I answer that question? Then I would understand exactly what you're saying, but you seem to me to be inconsistent and sort of jumping about in your answers. Sometimes you say that God doesn't intervene, and you make a very eloquent case for why it would be a rather undignified sort of thing to do as a God. On the other hand, you say he does intervene when he rescues one child from an earthquake.
I've been over this ground. Do you want to I think we've covered this to some extent.
Well, have you? Because
just wondering.
I mean, but
and I worry that your methods and your how articulately barbed you can be ends up simply being ineffective when you have much more power of influence than what is currently reflected in your output.
I gratefully accept the rebuke. Just one anecdote to show that I'm not the worst in this thing. A former and highly successful editor of New Scientist magazine, who actually built up New Scientist to great new heights, was asked, "What is your philosophy at New Scientist?" And he said, "Our philosophy at New Scientist is this: science is interesting, and if you don't agree, you can fuck off."